What happens when planets become more than just places to land, and weather systems turn into deadly threats that you'll have to navigate? Star Citizen is on the brink of making exploration, survival, and combat more immersive than ever. And after what was revealed at CitizenCon, it's clear that the game is about to change in some major ways. In this video, we're diving into all of the game-changing updates from day one of CitizenCon, specifically during the Brave New Worlds panel. From the new Planetech V5 that's set to transform planetary landscapes, to dynamic weather systems that will force players to adapt to the elements, Star Citizen might be evolving faster than we expected. So let's break down how these features will impact exploration, survival, and strategy in the verse, and why it could change the very way you play. One of the many standout reveals for me from day one was undoubtedly Planetech V5, also known as Genesis. This is the next step to creating truly diversive and immersive planetary environments. And while Star Citizen's planets and moons are already impressive, this update is going to take them to a whole new level, especially when CIG is able to implement machine learning, which will drastically reduce the time it takes to create these planets. Now, what really caught my attention was the sheer density and complexity of the biomes they showcased. The redwood forests in particular blew me away. These towering trees provide an awe-inspiring backdrop that could redefine what it means to explore in Star Citizen. Yes, I realize I say redefine very often. However, with the game so bare bones, a lot of these features that they showcased at CitizenCon are truly going to redefine the game. Dense jungles and swamps were also shown, each with unique features that will push players to approach exploration with more strategy and caution. But the visual upgrade is just the tip of the iceberg. Genesis isn't just about making planets look better. It's about making them feel alive and interactive in ways that we've never seen before. Now here's where things get really interesting. Exploration ships like the Zeus Mark II ES and the Carrack are going to play a huge role in this new era of planetary exploration. With the complexity of these environments increasing, scanning gameplay is going to become far more important. It won't just be about scanning for minerals or finding a landing spot. It'll be about cataloging entire ecosystems. Imagine for a moment that you're using your ship's scanners to identify rare plants or track dangerous wildlife. This kind of gameplay is what Star Citizen needs to make exploration more than just a sightseeing tour. We need to be able to interact with the environment in a meaningful way. Whether it's gathering data on fauna and flora, scanning geological formations, or even uncovering hidden resources. And once we've gathered this data, it could open up entirely new possibilities for players to share or sell that information. This is where the scanning can create gameplay depth. If you discover a location rich in rare resources or filled with valuable biological data, you should be able to sell that information to other players or NPC organizations. Maybe a research team is willing to pay top dollar for data on a newly discovered jungle species. Or perhaps another player wants the location of a high-yield mining spot that you've just found. Now, this kind of player-driven economy could add a new level of interactivity and reward for explorers. Following the reveal of planetary biomes, the next feature they introduced was the Starchitect tool, which could revolutionize how locations are placed and cluttered across planets and moons. Now, what really stood out to me was how this tool will allow for more realistic and logical groupings of points of interest. Instead of randomly scattered outposts, this will start adding mining outposts, distribution centers, and forward operating bases naturally clustered together. This kind of layout makes much more sense, and it brings an additional level of immersion to the game. Having these functional hubs means planets will have thousands of meaningful points of interest that connect to one another in logical ways, making planets feel like they're truly lived in and utilized. Now, with this new layout system, we could see planets filled with active hubs of commerce, industry, and exploration. A planet might just have a central distribution center surrounded by mining operations, FOBs, and smaller outposts, creating a network of locations that players can engage with. This also opens up possibilities for new types of missions where players might need to defend or sabotage key infrastructure points. At that point, I would expect to start seeing more missions be integrated into the distribution centers that would keep us at those locations longer if we're interested. The Starchitect tool essentially provides the blueprint for an expansive, interconnected planetary layout. which means exploration and mission running will feel far more immersive and coherent. Now, if you're excited about this as much as I am and want to stay up to date on all things Star Citizen, make sure to subscribe. I cover everything from gameplay mechanics to new features, so you won't miss any of the updates on how this will evolve. The next big highlight was the reveal of NPC behavior and destructible environments with Maelstrom. This is where combat mechanics took a leap forward for me. NPCs and players will of course be able to use cover dynamically, but destructible objects in the environment mean that cover won't always be reliable. This is going to change how firefights feel. With destructible cover, battles won't just be static exchanges of gunfire. The battle will constantly be evolving. Imagine hiding behind a crate, only for it to slowly break apart as it takes damage. NPCs and players alike will need to adapt, moving between cover as it gets damaged or destroyed. Combat will begin to feel more fluid, strategic, and interactive, making each battle feel unique. Now, one subtle but game-changing detail is how NPCs will have degraded vision in low light settings. This means NPCs will actively use flashlights in dark environments, adding an extra layer of realism and tactical depth to nighttime encounters. For players, this means you might have an advantage over NPCs if you can move undetected in dark areas. But if you're spotted, they'll be able to illuminate you with their flashlights, increasing the risk of getting cornered. This new mechanic also adds a layer of unpredictability to combat. You won't just be relying on cover to protect you. You'll need to stay alert, knowing that any cover could be blown apart. This creates a combat flow where players have to be constantly on the move, assessing their options and adapting as the environment changes. It's one of the most exciting updates to the combat system and should make firefights feel more intense and dynamic. The next major feature they revealed was the introduction of global illumination, which promises to take the game's visuals to a whole new level. This might not seem as flashy as the new biomes or destructible environments, but make no mistake, global illumination is going to play a huge role in making Star Citizen's universe feel more alive and immersive. Global illumination will allow light to bounce off of surfaces more realistically, creating deeper shadows and more dynamic lighting in every environment. Now, whether you're exploring the dark, misty corners of a jungle or walking through the brightly lit streets of a space station, lighting will feel far more natural and immersive. Imagine landing on a planet at sunset, with the light casting long, dramatic shadows across a dense forest, or navigating the dimly lit corridors of a derelict space station. This is where global illumination really shines. It adds an incredible layer of depth to every scene, making environments feel more vibrant and alive. Now, I was hoping that they would show off them applying this system to existing locations like Microtech and Orison. Orison, for example, feels a bit washed out right now. It looks like crap, and I think global illumination could dramatically improve its look, especially with how the clouds and floating platforms interact with sunlight. Microtech, with its snowy landscapes and beautiful structures, could also benefit greatly from this system, creating a much more immersive experience as light interacts with snow and ice. Right after global illumination, they unveiled Star Audio, another massive leap forward for immersion. Now, while graphics tend to get most of the attention, sound is equally important in making a game feel truly alive, and Star Audio is set to deliver that in spades. One of the most impressive features was the Doppler effect, where sounds dynamically change based on how fast an object is moving relative to you. This is the kind of subtle touch that can make a huge difference in how you experience the game. In the demo, we saw how ship engines, environmental sounds, ship weapons, and MOABs shifted as objects moved closer or further away, making everything feel more believable.
Shockwave, and the explosion itself. This is all
Just Just imagine flying through a storm, hearing the roar of thunder in the distance, the wind howling past your ship, and the crackle of lightning all around you. These aren't just sounds, they're cues that tell you exactly what's happening in the environment. The added layer of audio immersion will make every moment feel more intense and realistic, whether you're navigating hostile territory or exploring a peaceful landscape. This dynamic sound design will also impact combat, with players being able to identify ships or threats based on audio cues, adding a whole new layer of awareness to gameplay. Finally, we arrive at dynamic weather systems, which ties everything together and adds a sense of unpredictability to the universe. This was by far my favorite demo. This feature will make Star Citizen's planets not only more visually impressive, but also more dangerous and challenging to explore. One of the most exciting aspects of this update is that the introduction of supercell storms and dynamic weather patterns that will truly impact gameplay. These aren't just visual flourishes, they're interactive and dangerous weather systems that can actually cause damage to your ship. During the demo, we saw massive thunderstorms, complete with intense rain, lightning, and even supercells that can disable or damage ships. This is a game changer for exploration and travel. Imagine flying across a planet when a storm begins to form on the horizon. You could push through it, risking damage to your ship, or you could make a strategic decision to land and wait it out, or use a vehicle to get into where you need to go. Weather in Star Citizen won't just be a passive visual element. It'll require you to adapt and think on your feet. Dynamic weather systems will dramatically change how players plan their missions. A storm could delay a cargo run, disrupt a combat mission, or even make certain areas completely impassable for ships for a time. In areas with heavy lightning, ships could suffer damage to their components, forcing you to land or make repairs mid-mission. This layer of unpredictability is what will make the universe feel truly alive and ever-changing. Now, we've had storm shelters in the game for a long while, but until now, they really haven't been essential. When the dynamic weather system is introduced, these shelters will finally become a vital part of survival. If a supercell storm is bearing down on you, finding a shelter could be the only way to save your ship and yourself. And if your ship is disabled, this seems like the safest location to take shelter in. The introduction of dynamic weather means that players will need to plan their routes and timing more carefully. You might find yourself stuck in a shelter, waiting for a storm to pass before continuing a mission. Now, this is going to add a whole new level of strategy and immersion, as players will have to adapt to an ever-changing environment. The addition of dynamic weather, when combined with the destructible environments, intelligent NPC behavior, and new biomes, is going to make exploration and survival a key part of the game, especially considering that death of a spaceman will actually be something to worry about. Players will need to constantly weigh risk versus reward, deciding whether to press on through dangerous conditions or take shelter and wait it out. The real beauty of this update lies in how all of these features, Planetech V5, Starchitect's clustered locations, NPC behaviors, destructible environments, global illumination, star audio, and dynamic weather systems, work together to create a truly dynamic and living universe. These aren't isolated improvements. The new biomes and planetary systems will provide diverse and visually stunning backdrops for exploration. But they'll also introduce new challenges, from navigating toxic terrain to surviving dangerous wildlife. Meanwhile, dynamic weather will overlay unpredictable elements onto that exploration, forcing players to make strategic decisions in real time. And throughout all of this, global illumination and star audio will ensure that every scene and every action feels grounded in a hyper-realistic world. Star Citizen is pushing towards a future where the environment itself isn't just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing system that constantly interacts with the players and evolves with their decisions. The Brave New World updates during CitizenCon represent a significant leap forward for Star Citizen. We're not just getting a visual overhaul. We're getting an immersive, dynamic universe where every choice, every exploration, and every battle will be shaped by the environment, weather, and sound. From the beautiful yet dangerous biomes created by Planetech V5 to the unpredictable challenges posed by dynamic weather, Star Citizen is evolving into a universe that will challenge players in new ways. And with destructible environments and improved audio immersion, the verse is about to feel more alive than before. Now I want to hear from you. What feature from CitizenCon Day 1 are you most excited about? How do you think these new systems will impact how you play the game? Let's get the conversation going in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want to support the channel, consider becoming a member. You'll get early access to videos, exclusive access to special channels in my Discord, and other exclusive perks. Plus, don't forget to check out the giveaway for 2 Drake Cutter starter packages, with the details in the description below. And if you haven't already, check out my video on crafting and base building that perfectly ties in to planetary environments. Fly safe, pilots, and I'll see you in the verse. Havoc out.